Track 1. The meaning of my original contribution to the campaign, simply called Give 'em Hope, is complex to say the least. Its overarching subject is about domestic abuse. There's two things going on. One thing is that I tell two stories about two different periods in my life. And the second thing going on is that in a sort of retrospective voice, I'm talking about if I were able to go back in time now, what would I say to the younger me's? And what would I do to the younger me's abusers? Growing up, my stepdad was extremely abusive to my sister and I. But it was much worse for me, probably because my sister was his and I was another man's. The abuse was physical and mental. I'm shocked that I even knew my name was Brad because of how much I was referred to as fag, sissy, pansy, and not just derogatory names exclusively about being gay. There were many other categories. Retard, sped, idiot, shithead, dumb fuck, shit like that. So within the story, in the song, I speak not necessarily about the abuse, but about my mother's reaction to the abuse, or more like her lack thereof. My mother, a woman I love wholeheartedly, regardless of the past, knew about the abuse, but for whatever reason, she chose to ignore it, which I've never really blamed her for, because the few times that she did try to stand her ground, be it about the abuse or for other reasons entirely, she'd have consequences of her own to deal with. Now, considering my dad's no longer with us now, I have to clarify that in his later life, he stopped being abusive to Mother, and obviously I didn't have to deal with the abuse after I grew up and moved out, so he became a nicer guy. The second story in this song, I talk about my abusive relationship with a guy I spent 4 years with. Pretty much the same story. The time-traveling me basically points out how I would have handled things differently. The ultimate goal of the song, the part that every person who's in that sort of dynamic in their lives currently, although they don't know it yet, these people will move on eventually and not live in that fear. And they might try to fight to stay in that situation for dumb reasons, love, stupid stuff, but once they've been free for a few months, they'll realize they love their life and they wonder why they ever stayed in such a negative situation for so long. And that speaks not only about the people in bad romantic relationships, but to kids who deal with the abuse in their home life, but are too afraid to take a stand or to call authorities on their abusive parents. My advice, do it. In the end, after all is said and done, you'll be so glad you did. I promise. I'm Bradley Voorhees. Thank you guys for watching. Go download the album for free and share your story with the campaign.